So, on today's podcast, we're reminding ourselves that in every culture we are a part of, whether that is our family, our friends, our community, or our team and organization at work, we need to remind ourselves that I am the culture. We are the culture. I'll explain more in a moment. Welcome back to the Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced the best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back, breathe in good oxygen, and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. Hey everyone, it's Jason and welcome back to the Thermostat Podcast. Wherever you are, however you're coming to the podcast today, welcome in. So glad you are here. We're in season 9. We've reached the 300 episode mark, which hopefully you saw that, heard that. Really great celebration. Thanks to everybody out there, the listeners. If you've been with us from the very beginning, so glad this continues to add value to your life and your work. If you're new, welcome in. This continues to grow and spread, so glad this continues to find more people, and thanks to everybody out there who is helping to amplify the messages. My hope every time I go to record one of these podcasts is that this meets you where you are. This helps you think about the temperature you're trying to set in your life and your work, helps have some good oxygen breathed into you, and helps you kind of think about things. So there's so many great episodes out there. Google my name, Jason Barger, and whatever topic you're looking for as it relates to teams, culture, leadership, communication, emotional intelligence, whatever it is that you're looking for, and you're going to find not only some great content, but also some great interviews and chats I've had with some friends and thought leaders from around the world. So thanks, and hope you'll go check those out. Before we dive into today's episode, if you'll do me the quick favor, if you haven't subscribed, please do that. If you will rate the podcast 5 stars, of course, leave an authentic review in your own words, and then obviously if you'll share the podcast, whether that's with your team at work, colleagues, hey, let's listen to this episode and talk about it, or on social media. If there's an episode that resonates with you, share it with people, and that's how these messages get amplified further in the world. Appreciate everybody who takes a moment to do that. Thank you, and appreciate that today. Not too long ago, I was with a senior leadership team for a company. We were months into a culture-shaping initiative with their team and positioning ourselves to soon engage the rest of the organization in future culture shaping and engagement for the desired culture that they're aiming to create across their company. And, as is typical in the culture shaping process, you've heard me reference the 6 A's many times and walked through them in great detail in past pod episodes, which once again you can go back and search just my name and the 6 A's of leading change, but also as well in my book, Thermostat Cultures. And so if you're familiar with that, you know that the first A is assessing. And we had been assessing the opportunities for future development within their senior leadership team and, of course, across their culture of the organization. And also doing the second A, which is aligning. We were spending months aligning the senior leadership team around key concepts on how they show up as leaders, and are they in alignment around the future culture they desire to create together. So we were a few months into this development of meeting with their senior leadership team, about every month, and taking the next steps and building on the content and the development that we had done the month prior. And we had already made great strides around finding common language, identifying opportunities individually, for them all as individuals, but also collectively to positively impact change and developing the team's understanding and buy-in on the culture-shaping steps, phases, and mindsets that were going to be required into the future if they really wanted things to change. Still, there are always growing pains in every culture-shaping process because, again, we're talking about human beings and it's not perfect and none of us are, but shifting behaviors and habits takes time. And so when we're trying to shift from our normal routines and habits, to where, we're trying to go in a future culture that we want to be better and different, sometimes there are growing pains, of course. And so a member of the team in the midst of this powerful, what I refer to as a conversation that is the currency for change, which is a fancy way to say, if we want anything to change, we better be able to talk about it, or else we'll just keep repeating the same patterns. So we're having this great conversation that's the currency for change within this senior leadership team, and they started to identify some areas of the organization where the actions and behaviors of employees and departments weren't exactly congruent with the core values and that the company talks about. And they were not only bringing this example to the table, but their comments were beginning to tip into the finger pointing, into a little bit of blame, and a little bit of defensiveness about why this was happening across the company. And at a very critical, and by the way, this is a very human, normal thing that happens in teams and organizations, but at a very critical moment in the conversation, another senior team member chimed in. And this was the perfect sign of where we were in our own cultural development and transformation together. But they responded by saying, quote, they said, I hear what you're saying and glad you're identifying these areas as opportunities. And the way I look at it is, I am the culture. We are the culture. If we're seeing those signs in other areas of the organization that has this kind of lack of congruence, then the first opportunity is for us to look at ourselves in the mirror and look at what temperature we are setting in how we show up to our teams and how we can coach differently to get a different result. It was a mic drop moment, and in that instant, the whole team started to nod their heads, and this idea of alignment wasn't just an idea. You started to see them falling into alignment about this kind of what was the actionable opportunity. So on today's podcast, we're reminding ourselves that in every culture we are a part of, whether that is our family, our friends, our community, or our team and organization at work, we need to remind ourselves that I am the culture. We are the culture. I'll explain more in a moment. But before we dive deeper, let's pause, take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Hey everyone, I want to take a quick minute just to remind you about one of my favorite days of the year that is coming up on Friday, November 7th, 2025, for Thermostat Cultures Live. This is a powerful day of development that I host and an opportunity for us all to step back, take a deep breath, and calibrate our thermostats for the road ahead in our own leadership roles, our lives, and certainly with the cultures that we are creating. This year, it's a hybrid event, and there are limited seats available for the in-person VIP experience in Columbus, Ohio. That's right, it's a really cool in-person VIP experience in Columbus, Ohio, as well as there are online virtual seats available for those who want to engage from a remote location. As always, I'll be joined by amazing thought leaders from around the globe, and it will be a day you won't want to miss. Friday, November 7th, 2025. So visit thermostatcultureslive.com, thermostatcultureslive.com to learn more and to reserve your seat or seats for your entire team. I am the culture. We are the culture. It was a statement that instantly brought the entire team back to this reality. We are all thermostats for the culture we want to create. The culture isn't something out there that's separate from us. I am the culture. We are the culture. The first place to look is at our very own thermostat. I am the culture of my marriage, and so are we, Amy and I together. We both play a role in creating it together, but I have to first think about I am the culture, and we together are the culture. I am the culture of my relationship with my kids, and so are they as the we in the culture that we create together. And I am the culture in any team or organization I'm a part of, and we will impact it together. We aren't separate from it. It starts with each of us. And as we always remind ourselves of, is that culture is dynamic, And so it's always changing, and it's always being shaped by each of us individually, but also all of us collectively. And it's shaped by the way we think, act, and interact. And the culture is shaped by how we first think. How do we think about things, and how do we communicate those things? How we think about our own mission, what we're trying to accomplish, who we're hoping to be. How I think about what it means to be in a marriage will impact how I show up to that. How I think about what it means to be a friend will impact how I show up to those. It all starts in the mind. And then from that thinking, the culture is shaped by whether our individual actions as a thermostat, whether we back up that thinking and set that temperature, or we give people a different experience and set a different temperature. And that's when people don't feel things are congruent. And lastly, every little interaction that we have with those around us in our culture, that is shaping the future culture that we say we want. And culture, again, is dynamic, which means it's shaped moment by moment every day. That means that everyone within the cultural ecosystem plays a role in how they think, act, and interact. And so we've talked about this kind of shifting of our minds from thermometer, kind of reactionary thinking, to thermostat, proactive thinking on past podcasts. You can go back and see a whole episode all on that concept, which means every moment of every day that we're aiming to be intentional about how we do what we do, and that I am the culture, we are the culture. It isn't pointing the finger about somebody else. It's about what role do we play in owning that culture we want. Now, in dysfunctional teams and cultures, where it is always someone else's fault, it leads to these symptoms that organizations begin to see. They begin to see isolation. People separate themselves, and the focus is on the me, not the we. They start to isolate, and the focus primarily is on them as an individual. What's in it for them? We also see a symptom of the blame game. When something doesn't go as planned or up to cultural standards, the knee-jerk kind of thermometer thinking reaction is who's to blame, and the finger pointing begins across the team or the organization. And the other symptom is this kind of ongoing thermometer thinking, which means each situation is purely reactionary. So these cultures get really good at just pointing out the problems rather than finding and seeking solutions together that they all own. The opportunity to create cultures that drive engagement and personal ownership in the culture is massive. And again, as I've been trying to remind us of, not only are hopefully these just good ideas we're talking about on this podcast, but there's a return on investment. There's a business case for all of this. Anywhere between up to 22-25% studies show higher productivity, higher performance metrics when there's higher levels of engagement and ownership around the culture. So the best places understand that strategically, this is a part of our work, is to find that kind of alignment and bring people into this mindset around I am the culture, we are the culture. So I shared some of the kind of symptoms that show up in these dysfunctional cultures, this idea of isolation, blame game, thermometer thinking. But here are 4 positive elements that show up in healthier cultures. And as we study this stuff, these are the things we see in those kind of highly effective, healthy, functional cultures. One is we see alignment. And again, this doesn't mean that the leaders or the organization is perfect, but you see true alignment of the mission, expectations, goals, standards, values, and how they are committed to setting the temperature moving forward. There's clarity around how we're aiming to do what we do. You also see that performance, you see it again, that productivity and other performance metrics go up. Because the expectations, goals, collaborations, handoffs, there is more alignment, performance follows. Less time is wasted on ambiguity or blame and more on delivering results and that kind of thermostat thinking, which is finding solutions. We also see greater retention and attraction of talent. So thermostat cultures retain more of their best people and attract others who want to be a part of it. And it's obvious to spot it out when you're looking at throughout an organization. And lastly, this kind of an outgrowth of all this stuff is trust. Trust levels go up, and the culture begins to raise its level of trust in its leaders, in each other, and the future the organization is trying to create together. So all of those things go up as we become more aligned in this thinking, acting, and interacting that I am the culture, we are the culture. We know that this, culture shaping doesn't just magically happen. You've heard me talk about that it's a journey. I've talked about the 6A process of leading change on this pod, in my book. Culture shaping isn't a drive-through experience. The best teams commit to coming back together over the long haul to continue to align, clear up the vision, develop their thinking, acting, and interacting, calibrating their own individual and collective thermostats. And then it's amazing how intentional the culture begins to feel, and the results follow. So, as always, I'll leave you with a couple of questions to ponder based on today's episode. In what ways could you and the members of your culture better own the results and future you are hoping to create? What do you want to be different in the future? When are you and key members of your team committed to developing this kind of alignment together? When do you actually take time to ask these big questions and seek these out together? So cheers to you. Cheers to all of us on the path ahead. I hope today's episode resonated with you, got you thinking in some good ways, and thinking about how can you perpetuate this kind of I am the culture, we are the culture across your organization. If you have any thoughts, feedbacks, ideas, questions, or if we can be of support to the development of your culture, leaders, people in your organization, I hope you'll track us down, jasonvbarger.com, or email us info@jasonvbarger.com. Lastly, I hope you, of course, subscribe, rate the podcast, review the podcast, share the podcast, amplify it to the people around you, and I'm super appreciative of everybody that does that. And lastly, I'll just say this. Remind us all to step back, remember, be a thermostat, and breathe good oxygen. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to you and your organization, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com, And remember, we are all ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.